And then it was hard because I'm not very capable. I have MS.
Mhm.
And so I'm supposed to be the one who can't do things. We can't
Right.
have two of us around. All right. That doesn't work. Okay. We can have one of us who, can't get up on the ladder because he might kill himself.
Right.
But, so when I remember being very frustrated, not with you, but just with everything. Like,
Welcome to Diversity Dish, where we're dishing on everything diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice related. My name is Sedruola Maruska, and we're bridging the gap between what needs to be said and what needs to be heard. Those individual experiences that are often ignored or simply dismissed. Sometimes I'm dining alone, sometimes I'm dining with friends, and sometimes I'm dining a la carte. No matter how I'm dining, it promises to be delicious. Let's dig in. Hey, welcome to this very special episode of Diversity Dish, where I am talking to my family. It's the culmination of having had various breast cancer survivors on the show this month in order to bring more awareness to not just breast cancer, but how it affects different people differently and how different people come out on the other side. And since you've heard my story before, I thought it would be a good idea if you could hear from my family, my children, and my husband on how my breast cancer affected them and their lives. As you know, as you may know, I was diagnosed on December 13th, 2017 with invasive lobular carcinoma, breast cancer. And for the most part of 2018, I went through active treatments. During that time, I was going through chemo, having a double mastectomy without reconstruction, and having radiation. My family was around. My family went through it with me. And so this is their perspective. We're going to start with my son, Vladimir. Hi, Vladimir, honey. I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your experience as I was diagnosed and going through active treatments for breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how old you were?
No, I think I was around 10 or 11, and it was in 7th grade. And usually people would like react like, oh my God, it's like the worst thing in the world. But I think I reacted pretty calmly. I remember when I would tell my friends about it, like, oh yeah, my mom has cancer, like breast cancer, and be like, oh, she'll push through. They'd be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I just, I had a very subtle reaction when you first told me. I remember that.
Yeah. Do you remember exactly what your reaction was?
Well, I remember you told me, you're like, so, we gotta sit down, you got us in the room, me and Zia, and we sat around the bed, and you're like, okay, so mommy has breast cancer and we're gonna do chemotherapy. And Zia's like, oh, mommy has breast cancer or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And we were just so calm about it. And I just felt like, I don't know, it just didn't feel like, the end of the world, how it would usually do for other people.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, she has breast cancer, send prayers or anything. I kind of figured like, oh, it's fine. She'll push through it.
Okay. And that's how you felt?
Yes, I guess that was kind of my reaction. I was just very calm about it. I didn't overreact or anything. I didn't really, I wasn't going to make it a bigger problem than it was, is kind of what I'm getting to.
Right. And I think mommy and daddy had a little bit to do with that because we didn't make it seem like it was a big problem.
Yeah.
We just kind of said, so we need to tell you something and, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But mommy has breast cancer.
Yeah.
Right. So then when I started doing chemotherapy and then I had to do, well, let's start with chemotherapy. When I started doing chemotherapy, did that affect you in any way? Did you think about it in any way? Did you notice anything?
I feel like once in a while I'd notice it. Like you'd be, out of the mood, out of like, low energy, moving around slower. And I noticed that. And I kind of just figured, she's old or something, how I usually do. But, I sort of noticed it. but it didn't affect me as
Yeah.
much as it probably affected you or dad. Like you guys would notice it more because like I'm, talking to my friends, I'm always hanging out with my friends, but I would notice it.
Right.
It just wouldn't affect me probably as much as other people like you.
Do you remember when my hair started to come out?
Oh, that was the fun part.
That was the
That
fun
was,
part.
that was the fun part. Because when you were losing hair, we got to pull it out. It was like the coolest thing in the world. I remember that. But yeah, that was the fun part. We I guess I didn't, that was because you were bald, it was like a new look and everything.
Yeah.
And I think you already cut your hair before then,
I did.
like how it is now, how it's short. And then you kind of kept it like that because it's just easier to manage.
Yeah. And then when I did surgery, so I went in for surgery, and after surgery, do you remember I was sleeping on the couch downstairs because it was more comfortable. I could manage my movements better. What were your thoughts during that time?
I don't think I remember the surgeries. I don't remember. I don't remember that much during chemo or anything. Because I kind of pushed it away, I guess. I didn't really focus on it that much as people might focus on, COVID. Like someone has COVID. Oh my God, they're COVID. Like I just pushed it away. I didn't, it's gonna be fine. It is what it is. I kind of dealt with it in my own way, in a different way that usually people would deal with it.
Yeah.
But I think, I kind of just let you, be in your own space and go through it. And, you always have your family like me, Zia, and Daddy. And, I just, I guess it sort of affected me. Like I saw it, like I was like, oh, I wish, she would get better, sooner or something, it sucked what you were going through and what we all had to, deal with. But I think the best part was that we got through it and you're still here, which is like the coolest thing ever. Like my mom's a cancer survivor. I think the funniest part though is I forget sometimes that you went through cancer. Like I'm in a conversation with like my friends and they remember more than me. And I'm in conversations with my friends and I'm like, oh yeah, my mom's cool. And like, oh yeah, and she's a cancer survivor too. I was like, she is? Oh my God, she is. You're right. Oh wow. I totally forget. It's just, I guess it's just something I didn't focus on that much.
Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that Daddy and I focused on. We didn't want you or Zia to feel the pressure of it. So we kept things as normal as possible. And I guess it worked because
I totally forgot. I think one of the biggest blessings though was how many people you reached out, and not only didn't reach out, but also, they came with food. We had orders, we had people, drop food by our house because, they want you to like move around, go grocery shopping. And I think that was when I started to notice that our community of friends and family is just a blessing, like really helpful. Like it was I think it was just one of the coolest things to have is like friends and family that just, whenever you're in a situation that, and like they found out about it, we had no idea like how far they went. They made food for us. They gave us clothes. They just did a lot for us. And I think that was like, that's something I'm going to remember for a while, to make a strong society around you,
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah. To have that strong network community of family and friends. And
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we got things from family from far away.
Yeah.
And we got things from the community right here where we are. So it was definitely, and that is something that Daddy and I often talk about as well. That what a blessing that was.
It was great. And I love how we try to, participate in that by helping out other people who go through things.
Absolutely.
That's also, you have to help out. The community helped us in that moment. And we would always, go to church, bring service stuff. You would do speeches. We'd always, help out the community the best we could.
Yeah. Right. So it's a give and take, really.
Yeah.
And that's how the flow works.
Yeah. Very beautiful thing. Very beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. Is there anything else that you can remember that you'd like to share about our journey with cancer? As you know, I'm still, I still take pills and I still have to go get my shot.
I forget that sometimes because you're like, I gotta take my pill. I gotta, do this. I was like, right, cancer, right. I gotta remember.
To be honest, sometimes I forget too.
Yeah, I know. It's just one of those things,
Yeah.
And I think I just, I'm glad I didn't make it a big deal because I feel like if I was, if I made it a big deal, then I would have stressed myself out with something that was not, because I mean, you made it through it. You were one of the strongest people that I know. You really pushed through it, and that was a beautiful thing to see my mom do that and survive it. Like, my God, it was awesome. It was amazing.
Wow,
it was so cool to see.
Oh, thanks, baby. Wow. It's good to know. It's
Mhm.
good to hear
Yeah.
your part. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. God, it's so fun. I'm gonna be part of a podcast now. So
That's right. It's here, the day you've been waiting for. The registration for the Discovery Den cohort is now open. You can find the link in the show notes, or you can go to Sedruola Maruska.com /work -with -Sedie, and that's SEDIE. What is the Discovery Den cohort? It's a place where you get to connect with like-minded people and you get to dig further into the information that we share. The Discovery Den cohort is where we're going to help you take those strengths that are yours. We're going to help you identify your strengths, take those strengths, couple them with your passion, and find exactly where you want to make or where you can make a laser-focused difference. So come on by sedrolamaruska.com /work -with -Sedie, or look in the show notes. The link is there. One of the things that my husband and I tried to do was to make sure that our lives didn't get disrupted too much. And as you can tell, Vladimir, who is the older of my two children, didn't really have much impact. It didn't have much impact on him. But Vladimir is also one of those kids who's very optimistic about most things and who tends to look on the bright side. And so I'm not surprised at his reaction. I'm not surprised that he didn't remember. I spent a lot of time with Vladimir during that time. We watched TV together. We joked. We did different things together, and he was there support me to help me get things and get things for me. He would often check in with me and say, "How are you doing, Mom? Are you doing okay?" And he says, "I hope you're feeling better today or you're feeling better soon." I don't think he remembers all of that, but he was there and he was very present. But I think, like he said, he probably pushed it down because the alternative, of course, is to think that you're not going to have your mom around. And that's a very tough alternative. So then I had a conversation with my daughter. She is 4.5 years younger than her brother. And I wanted to get her perspective on what she was going through, what she thought, what she was feeling. And so here she is, Anastasia. Hi, honey.
Hi.
So we're going to talk a little bit about how you felt when mommy was going through cancer active treatments. Do you remember how old you were?
I think I was 7.
Yeah, I think you were 6 going on 7.
Yeah.
But when I was going through active treatments, you turned 7.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you remember when mommy and daddy told you that mommy had breast cancer? What you thought and what you felt?
Well, I remember that we were in the kitchen and I came downstairs because you called Vlad and I, and you said that you had cancer. And I felt scared because I didn't want to lose my mom.
Mhm.
And I was wondering how to treat it when that happened.
You were wondering what we were going to do about it?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that you and Vlad came down, and when we told you, you looked at Vlad, and Vlad was like, "Oh, it's okay." And so you were like, "Okay." You just kind of went on.
Yeah.
I guess to go play Xbox or something.
Yeah.
And Daddy and I looked at each other and we were like,
Oh,
"Okay."
well.
So when you were watching mommy kind of go through the treatments that she was going through, I went through the chemo first.
Yep.
How did you feel? What were you thinking? Tell us a little bit about what might have been going through your mind.
Well, when we would visit you, I would be very excited to see you, and you'd be tired, and we would always talk about what just happened because we would come like after they would do stuff. And I would,
Are you talking about when I had my surgery?
yeah.
Okay. Oh, we skipped chemo. Okay, go ahead and finish that part.
And you were talking to us and you said that they had surgery. You had surgery and it would take a little bit of time for you to heal.
Mhm.
And I thought, my mom's over cancer. Yay. But then it wasn't over.
Yeah. You'd like to think that it's over, but then I
Yeah.
had radiation after I had
Yeah.
the surgery. But when I was going through chemo, because I did chemo before I did surgery,
Yeah. And you were here.
when I was here, like I would go on Tuesdays, but you guys went to school.
Yeah.
We never changed the schedule, right?
Yeah.
You went to school, you came home, and some days it was every other Tuesday that I would go for chemo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would get home, everybody would be home, but I would be tired.
Yeah.
And so how did you feel during that time? And what are some of the things that we did? We did a few things together during that time, right?
Yeah. We were, so you had the couch to yourself.
Yeah.
Your long couch. So we would watch movies and TV shows. And then later in the day, we would color and
Mhm.
listen to music. And I thought it was a great bonding experience for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed doing that with
Yeah.
you. Yeah. So how did that make you feel? Watching mommy go through that, how did it make you feel?
Well, I knew we were doing good because you were here. And I was happy that the doctors were helping you and I felt like that you were going to be okay.
You felt I was going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you were right. What was for you maybe let's try the scariest thing and then the best thing.
Well, the scariest thing probably was that when you were in your surgery, I didn't know what was happening
Mm-hmm.
and what you would be like after
Mm-hmm.
or what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But the happiest thing was that, well, you came out and you were good.
Mm-hmm.
And that we got to spend all that time together.
Yeah, we did. We did spend a lot of time together because we spent a lot of time. And those times mommy was in pain.
Yeah.
When we would sit and we would color and we would have the candles and we would have the music, those were times that I will remember because you helped me to feel better because I was in pain those times and I was trying to make sure that one, I didn't make you see that I was in a lot of pain, but two, I was trying to just go through the pain, just kind of ground myself and be okay and know that it's something that is gonna happen, that I have to go through and that it's gonna be fine later.
Yeah.
Right. Is there anything else you would like for people to know about your experience in having a mom who had cancer and who is now pretty much okay?
Yeah. One thing that was very different was that your hair you lost your hair because of chemo. So when I saw you with no hair, I was surprised because I've never seen you with no hair. And it didn't look bad, but it looked different. So I was very shocked on how different people look with no hair versus how they do with hair.
Well, when you go into the chemo, it's not just the hair on your head that comes off.
Yeah.
Right. You remember?
Your eyebrows came off, your eyelashes came off.
Right.
Yeah.
So it makes your whole face look different. So I had to color in my eyebrows and I had to put fake eyelashes, which I still do now because even at this, these many years after chemo, I still don't have the lashes that I had before.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Your eyebrows are tiny.
And my eyebrows are not the same as also. It changed everything. It changed a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want to share?
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much, honey, for sharing your story with my podcast audience.
Of course.
All right. Interestingly enough, it seems that my daughter had a clearer vision and recollection of what happened during the time that I was going through chemo and surgery and radiation. If you put the two stories together, my son and my daughter, you'll get a better rounded picture. But I think that my daughter had, um, she was a little bit clearer. And it might have been because she was a little younger. And so it might have impacted her a little bit harder because it was harder to make it clearer for her. My son, he probably was a little bit clearer about it. I remember when we told them both, my son said, "Oh, my friend's mom had breast cancer and she's fine. So you're going to be fine, mom." I don't know if you remembers that, but I do remember that because it warmed my heart. And I was glad that the fear wasn't the first thing that he went to. So my daughter, as you can tell, she was younger and she did have some fear. But I think that the way that we kind of went through the days, like I said, we did a lot of coloring, we listened to music, we hung out a lot together, my daughter and me, during that time. And I think that that helped to make her feel more comfortable. And as I was getting better, we would spend a lot more time together as I would I would do what I could in order to just make it all seem okay. And now we're going to talk to my husband. I do believe that during the course of treatments, my husband and I had different conversations about different things, things that we were so grateful for and things that were frustrating me. But there are some things in here that I didn't know and that he's going to share. As you can tell, each one of us has a different personality. So my son is gregarious, my daughter is a little bit more reserved, and my husband, well, my husband is my husband, and you're going to see exactly what I mean in this conversation that we had. It was it was a good conversation for us to have. There were there's a lot of laughter, but I think that's because we're on the other side and we can actually look at it and laugh through it. Even though we did laugh during the time that I was going through my journey, my cancer journey, and I'm still going through my cancer journey. But now looking on the other side after active treatments and still nothing having shown up on any scans yet, we are so grateful. So here is my husband, Travis. Okay, so now we're here with my husband, Travis. Hi, honey.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. Love you. Mwah. We just kissed.
Yes. So what we're
You don't
talking
get that
about,
on most interviews.
what we're talking about is when I was diagnosed with cancer. So we're
Right.
talking about cancer.
Yeah, fun conversation. Yeah.
And how we
How we lighten things up.
okay. So you were with me.
Oh, we're just going right into it?
Yes, we're going.
I thought you were gonna like give like an intro, like he's a professor of whatever, and like am I not? Don't you usually do that?
We don't need all of that.
I'm just the husband. Is that all I am? I thought there was gonna. I thought this was gonna be professional. All right. No, that's fine. All right, let's get right to it. All right, so I'm sitting in the doctor's office
So you
with
went,
my wife.
You went with me to the doctor's office.
Yep. All right.
Because I'd had 2 biopsies, and
Yes.
the doctor had said, "Bring someone with you."
Thanks.
And I said, "Oh, okay." And when I told you that you needed to come with me, you said, "Why do I need to go?"
Right, because it was like, why? I mean, why do I want to go to the doctor with you? Other than,
And I said, "Because I don't know what the doctor's going to tell me."
Right. It was ominous.
And you said, "Okay."
Yeah.
So you came with me to the doctor's office,
Yeah.
and the doctor said, it looks like you have invasive lobular carcinoma, which is breast cancer.
Yeah.
What were you thinking at the time? Everybody that listens to me on this podcast knows what I was thinking, but what were you thinking?
Boy, it was bad news. I mean, my attention was on you at that point. Like, what could I do for you? I could see you were getting pretty emotional. How could I help you? No, and then was like, yeah, it's like, whoa, cancer. It's just so many things go with that. Like, is this the end? Is this, is this that conversation? And then, and all that stuff. But she was very quick to say, if I recall, we got it early. This isn't a death sentence. She's very quick.
Oh, I'm so glad that you remember, because I don't remember
Right.
anything that she said after she said that I had breast cancer.
Well, she did have that look of death on her when she did it, but then she was also with, but this, that, all these possibilities, this doesn't, so I remember taking that into consideration, but I also remember you crying. And so that was where my attention went at that moment.
Yeah.
Because it was like, well, I'm going to sit here and, how is this going to affect me? You were crying, and, obviously it was more about you at that point.
Yeah. But then after, we talked about it for briefly
Yeah.
in the hall afterwards.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you remember?
I do remember pausing
in the hall because I was crying.
Yeah.
Because I had to go tell my parents.
Right. Actually, we had to go different directions. I had to tell my parents too.
And you had to go to work.
Right. I had to go all the way over to, where I was working.
Yeah.
No, I was going west. And you were going wherever you were going. And so, yeah. I don't remember what we said in the hallway though.
Well, what I remember is that I was crying because I was going to go tell my parents. I called work, told them that I couldn't get there. Mm-hmm. And then I had to go get my blood drawn. And then I was going to go straight to my parents' house to tell them.
Yep.
And you needed to go to
Paxton. Yeah.
To Paxton. You needed to go to work.
Yeah.
And so you were going to tell your parents.
Yeah.
And
I do recall breaking down when I told my parents. I remember there was no way I could get it out without breaking down a bit. It was just, you couldn't say that out loud. By the way, Sedie has cancer. It was just, you couldn't say it. So I remember breaking down a little bit on the phone. And of course they were all, it'll be okay. And then I followed up with them, but they think, we got a plan and this, but you can't say that out loud without it, affecting you.
Right.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah.
So after all of that, then there were all the scans the following day. I went in and I was there all day doing scan after scan after scan.
Yep.
And then we left to go to Turks and Caicos.
Right.
And we had a fantastic time.
Yep.
And then we came back and it was off to the races. Do you remember that? We came back and had to go meet the oncologist.
Okay. Now I don't remember. Did we do the stuff together, or did you have to do this?
You came with me.
I came with you. Okay.
To meet Dr. Peppercorn.
That's when. Yeah, I remember him.
Right.
Yeah. Because Mm-hmm.
And then you also came with me for the first infusion.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
It was very interesting because Jen, who was my nurse for at least 5 of my infusions, the first infusion, she was waiting for a patient, and they told her that the patient was a woman over 50 that she was going to be seeing. And then
you're going to brag about how young you look again. Is that what you're about to do?
It was funny because I came in with you.
Right.
And we went.
Well, he looks over 50, but I don't know who's with her. Who's that,
And we went into the room, and Jen said to me, and she told me this later. She didn't tell me that, of course, that same day.
Right.
But she told me that, and she said, so, someone said, oh, your patient is here. And she said, I'd seen you come in. And she said, and someone said, your patient is here.
Yeah.
She said, well, no, my patient's over 50.
See, she was building up to brag about how young she looks, right? All right.
But but it was indicative of some of the conversations that we had during the time that I was going in for chemo.
We as in you and I, or?
We as in me and the nurses.
Oh, okay. You and the nurses.
We had several different conversations.
Right.
But I'd like for you to tell me or us.
Okay.
during the time that I was going through chemo, and there wasn't very much that I could do.
Right.
How does that affect you? Because I think that that's what's most important. I think people think that cancer tends to affect the person who has it, but what I'm trying
I think
to
it
bring,
does.
well, only,
Right.
but I want to bring out how it affects those who are closest to them or right around them.
Right. So there's the whole mortality thing. I recall having a conversation with a close friend of mine. Well, laughing. I don't know.
Yeah.
In an interview.
Mhm.
That there was so much uncertainty. Now, this close friend of mine had a mother who passed away from cancer, and it was one of those things where it was there and then went away and it came back. And so there was this idea of this could be with us for the rest of our lives. This could be the end, not now, but 5 years from now, like we could never be free of it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I got over that pretty quickly because we were moving forward, and I don't know, I don't remember, dwelling on, but I do remember that moment where I was like, oh my God, and then it was hard because I'm not very capable. I have MS.
Mhm.
And so I'm supposed to be the one who can't do things. We can't
Right.
have two of us around. All right. That doesn't work. Okay. We can have one of us who, can't get up on the ladder because he might kill himself.
Right.
But, so when I remember being very frustrated, not with you, but just with everything, like,
I remember we had that conversation, and and I think about that as well, because I thought to myself the same thing. I'm supposed to be the healthy one.
right.
I'm supposed to be the one who's supposed to be
That
here
was our
to-
deal. And you totally messed it up. All right. Just for the record.
right,
all
to
right?
pick up,
Totally messed it up. All right.
just to kind of be here to pick up the slack where you can't do it.
Right.
And now I was right.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was just very stressful semester. That was the spring of 18.
Yeah.
I mean, and for, I say semester because I teach college. And so there's this sort of ebb and flow to it. And so you build up in the midterms, kind of from the midterms to the finals are the most stressful time because, you've gotten past all the introductions and now there's grading and there's major assignments.
Mhm.
And it timed so that your surgery,
Yeah.
well, your double mastectomy
Mhm.
came right during finals week, if I recall.
Here's May 1st. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was just like, I gotta, get this final ready and I gotta grade all these final projects. Oh, my wife's gonna have her breast cut off. And and it's just like, and I remember saying, I was literally logging it into my head that week. Like that's how it was all gonna play out. And I was like, wait a second, one of those things stands out. And I remember you threw the party, which was the boob voyage. You had a party because you were gonna,
Yeah.
and it was really stressful for me. I mean, I was just like, how can we be celebrating this right now? And you had all these people over and they're our friends and I was happy to see them. But I ended up just going out on the back deck and talking to one or two people because I was just like, I can't be in this right now. It was just a very stressful week for me. And I didn't want to, be a party pooper either.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was stressful. It was a really stressful time.
Yeah.
Because it was even getting past the whole mortality thing, it was just a major change in our lives.
Yeah.
It felt like anyway.
Yeah. Well, it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
It was. And I was in the hospital for a couple of days actually because the doctor kept me an extra day because I had to have a blood transfusion.
Okay.
Which meant that you were home with the kids
Right.
who were 7. so
Yeah,
they
but
had
you do
turned
that to me all
7.
the time anyway. You always leave me home with the kids.
That's not
Hey, I'm
true.
going to Manhattan for a few days. I told you. I
Yeah,
said
well,
I was.
once in a while,
Hey,
sure, but
going away with my sisters. Hey, see you.
I also take them away with me.
No, okay, occasionally. Yeah, that's
So that was stressful.
Yep.
I felt that I needed to have that boob voyage because I was getting rid of a major part of my body that
yes,
had
I've noticed. Yeah.
always been there.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so it was kind of a closing chapter.
Mm. All right.
There.
No, and I wasn't going to take it away from you. I was just like, oh my God, it was so much at once. But
Yeah, mostly because of school.
well, yeah,
We had a lot of help.
we did. there were a lot of people in our community who were bringing meals for us and helping out. Yes, you're right.
So
And
that
people were taking you to for infusions.
Yeah.
So no, it's very true. It's very true.
yeah.
Thank you, all of you who are listening. Thank you.
but beyond that, I mean, beyond that stressful period. So after that was summer. So
Mhm.
during the summer, because I had my surgery on May 1st, and then
Right, but then you were doing radiation.
I was doing radiation. I had to get up in the morning and go do radiation and then go to
Yep.
work.
Oh, right, you're still working, right?
Yeah, I
Yep.
was go in the morning, go to work.
Yep.
5 days a week for 6 weeks, I think it was. Or
Okay.
yeah, I don't quite remember, but I think it was 6 weeks.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that sounds right.
but all this time, what's going through your mind?
Over the summer now.
Yeah. After
Well-
all of that stressful period, then we're just kind of coasting into
Well,
we're coming
think-
into the end of the
Well, I think the summer was a little easier because the radiation didn't affect you the same way that the infusions, the
yeah.
chemo did.
Mhm.
So you were more capable, and I was less worried about you. And I think there was sort of more of a light at the end of the tunnel kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about that summer. I think we got to
Yeah.
North Dakota at one point.
We did.
I don't remember
We
when
did
exactly.
after I had my last after I had
in
radiation.
August, like at the end of the year,
At
or
the
end of the
end
summer.
end of July. we
Oh,
went.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds right. We probably didn't do much more than that. We
No.
certainly didn't take another major trip or anything.
I went to Florida.
You did. You got away to Florida and saw your family, which was great. Yeah, I mean, it was just summer, and we were just kind of doing our things. The kids were probably doing plays and
Yeah.
summer, and we were running them around. But you were more capable at that point, and I don't know. They say the whole new normal thing, and so you just kind of go, okay, well, this is the new normal, and our normal is not that bad. I mean, I know people have had different normals,
Sure.
So yeah. So I think the summer was easier than the spring.
Yeah.
Much easier.
Did it ever come to your mind that you'd lost Aunt Paula to breast cancer and that was a very real possibility?
Sure. Yeah, that was the mortality thing right away. I
Right.
mean, and it wasn't just my aunt. I miss her very much, but also just people in general. That cancer is, can be,
Right.
it's this thing that's always been an
It's the
uncertain
C word that you don't want to
right.
hear. Because,
There's, I mean, some people can talk about it, and that was one thing that I recall that people, I think that there was, I forget exactly, but we had this conversation where all of a sudden you realize a lot of people had cancer and had gotten through it.
Mhm.
Like, oh, cancer. Yeah, I had that when I was 40, whatever, and then, I did this, did that, and I got through it, and you're like, oh, well, that's also
Right.
a
that's the other-
possibility,
right.
because you're so used to assuming the worst. But that is where you go first. You go to the worst, and then, you hopefully gain optimism as you move forward and you hear other stories. And our story, fortunately, has been a good one.
Yeah. So I also spoke to the kids,
Mhm.
and just like you,
Mhm.
each child's personality came through.
Oh,
So it's going to be very interesting when we put this all together.
Yeah.
What people are going to.
oh my gosh, exposed.
They're going to wonder, how do these people all live together?
I'm sure we don't. We live apart in the same house.
Zia's recollection, of course, is
How old was she?
She was 6.
Oh.
She was 6. She was 6
Going on 7.
when we started,
Yeah.
and 7 by the time I ended.
Right.
And Vlad was 11.
That sounds right.
And they both had, pretty good recollections of different things, and they both had their way of expressing, how they felt. But one thing that Vlad said was that he never felt worried. And I said to him, well, I think that's because Daddy and we didn't want you to
Sure.
worry.
Well, we didn't talk about it too. I don't think we talked about it in front of the kids very much.
Well,
I mean, we had a conversation in the beginning,
right.
but once that happened, it was sort of like, I remember we were sitting in front of you were in front of the TV and we were in the kitchen and you were like pulling your hair out by clumps and it's like, hey, I'm pulling my hair out. And, and the kids, you were all like, oh, all right, well.
Vlad talked about that.
Oh, okay,
he
yeah.
Said, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Well, you don't forget that, that stands out.
He said, that was kind of fun.
Yeah. I remember not liking that. I didn't like that at all because that was very real.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. I was like, oh, all right. You need a bag or anything? You're just gonna pull all your hair out while you're sitting there in front of the TV?
Which I didn't do.
No,
I did go upstairs. I went upstairs and I pulled as much as I could out and then I shaved the rest.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Because I had to go to work the next day.
Right. Well, once you do that. And I shaved my head at one point, which wasn't hard to do. There's not much to shave, but I did use a razor. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So he thought about that, but I thought it was pretty interesting. It was pretty telling that he said that he didn't think about it much.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad.
We did talk about me going to chemo.
It was a scheduling. Secret. It was a scheduling. You had to figure it out. Yeah. And you were not. I mean, you were in bed a lot after chemo.
I was in bed a lot.
Right. And so they understood. Mommy goes to chemo. Mommy lays in bed.
Right. Right. Yeah. She's tired. She's not feeling well.
Yep.
And all those things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything extra, anything more, maybe that I didn't ask you that you might want to say to others who are going through this as families?
This is okay.
Yeah, you actually have to put on your maybe professor hat right now.
I hope not. No, that's a big burden to talk to people who are going through this, because each situation is different.
Yeah.
And as you know, I kind of try to have a detached approach to life,
yes.
Which annoys you a lot sometimes. The idea that nothing we have is something we really have, mm-hmm. and it's all going to be taken away at some point. And so we have to find something that's more real. And I think that comes within. And so I fall back on that a lot. Not that I immediately detached from you when I heard this news. That's not my point. Boy, what am I building up to here? Well, I'm working my way through it. So I think it's important to grow close, to be close during this time, obviously, to be aware of what each other needs, because it's very easy to be more concerned with what your needs are. I had to, but I think I recall my priority was you. I mean, it's like, whatever you needed, obviously.
Well, sure.
I mean, at one point you said, I think the first idea was that you were going to have reconstructive surgery.
Yes.
And then at one point you said, can I not do that? Because I really don't want to go through surgery again. And I was like, of course. I mean, whatever, I'm not going to say you need to do that for my needs. So yeah, I think being there for each other, I guess that's there's no way I can say this without being corny or a cliche or something. Everything that comes to my mind is a cliche. Be there for each other, stay optimistic.
But these are very real things, and sometimes maybe your voice will resonate with someone that saying the same thing that someone else has said. So yeah, there you go.
Well, and then but also allow yourself the idea that it sucks. I mean, it's okay to say it sucks.
Right.
And, and not, because I think I recall those days too, like this sucks.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing was we were going through this right after we lost a close friend. You probably talked about this.
Yeah.
We lost a close friend to cancer.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of it, another close friend of ours was diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And so we had this weird situation where two of my close friends had either lost their wife to cancer or was going through cancer at the same time. Yeah, and we were all like, this sucks,
yeah, it was
and just allow yourself that. So at the same time, yes, optimism, be close, but you can say this, I can't swear. This sucks. Sure. Fucking sucks, and you have to allow yourself that no matter what it is. Life is just as good as it is bad and vice versa. That's very true.
Yeah. I do say that. I share that all the time, that it's important to know. And it's also the same when I'm talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. it's hard. It's not easy. It's not an easy thing. We didn't get here. We didn't,
Right.
get here because it was,
Nobody wants to talk about race. Nobody wants to talk about this. Let's not talk about it.
and nobody wants to talk.
They'll sweep it under the rug, you know? Yeah.
And even when it's not directed directly at someone, they still feel like you're slighted.
Right.
And so, it's the same thing. It's kind of like you go through the suck.
Mhm.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But when you get on the other side,
Yeah.
how does it feel?
Yeah. No, I just had a conversation with my class, my freshman class at my college about race. And it was like the most uncomfortable hour and 15 minutes you could imagine, Nobody wants to say anything. It's a relatively mixed group. So, everyone's afraid they're going to offend each other, and the only thing that I took from it was like, I hope, they took something later on afterwards from what little was shared, and there were some things shared, and, we'd had a reading and we were trying to reflect on the reading. I don't know how many of them did the reading, often they don't. But, but that you come out of that at least with, you've gone through an uncomfortable experience, but you've exposed yourself to a different point of view.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've gone through an uncomfortable experience, but
Right.
we're exposed now. But we also went through kind of an uncomfortable experience when you were diagnosed with MS.
I recall that being uncomfortable. Yes. I agree.
And we had a learning curve. We had to read and learn and understand that everybody's MS story is different.
And it's progressive. So in some ways I'm like, I'm often jealous of you, or you're like, God, you're just going through with it, and my disease is still progressing, what the hell?
But that's not true, because when you have cancer, like you said in the beginning,
I know,
right?
You're right.
Said in the beginning,
you're right.
You're right. It's always there in the back of your mind, and it's always a possibility that it will
come back, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know what's worse. See, I don't want to get all nasty now.
Yeah, let's not do that.
No. All right. Never mind.
Well, you know what, honey? Thank you so much for sharing.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you have something else.
No, I don't. You've bragged about I went an hour and a half with my guest, blah 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 blah. And
I have you.
Oh, you're
gonna
have the kids. Smush us all together.
And then I have me.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry. We didn't mean to keep you.
Oh, you want to take up all the time?
No. I'm all right.
Well, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Mwah.
I appreciate you.
Yep.
I love you.
Love you too.
And hopefully, someone will get something from it.
I guess so. We're just hoping.
Hey, did you enjoy that episode? If so, please leave a review. It would mean the world, but only if it's a good one and you really did enjoy it. In which case, it would be awesome if you help support my work over at Patreon. The link is in the show notes. See you soon.